Welcome to TypeScript FM, the friendly podcast for TypeScript developers where we bring you news, updates, and interviews from the community with plenty of tomfoolery sprinkled in. I'm your host, Kamran Ayub, and I'm joined by my co-host and best bud, Eric Onerheim. Together, we're the two TypeScript fools. Welcome to the show. Hey, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Another recording after dark.
That's right. Hey, you know what?
What?
I shipped something for Keep Track of My Games
something
last week. Doesn't happen too often, but it does.
I feel
happen.
that in my bones.
Actually, if I actually look back at how much I've shipped for Keep Track of My Games over the past 2 years, it's like way more than it's ever been before. But one of the issues is that I added a brand new capability to Keep Track of My Games that did not exist before and had no infrastructure to exist and didn't have any architecture to exist either. It had to be all built from scratch and built from the ground up. And that's the playthrough tracking and completion tracking, which is part of the new Caldera update for Keep Track of My Games. So if you're a gamer, you play games. True? Well, not always.
Yeah. Well, if you're me,
mostly true.
I seem to collect them.
Yeah, exactly. So you do have one side of this, which is collectors who collect more games than they actually play. Now, this update is for the players, right? Players unite. And I'm a player. I'm not a collector. So let's be clear here. I love to play on my Xbox. I love to play on my PC sometimes, although I'm more of a console gamer now, I feel like. But this new update lets me track what I play, and it lets me track those play sessions over time, so I can see trends, or I can just get interesting information, or just because it's fun to like track playtime over time. So the initial version of this update was really simple, where you could update your playtime and update like a percentage progress tracker, and that was basically it, right? And you could do that once per game, and that's how it was for about a year. That was the early access preview of the first version of this, and I used it to track probably like 10 games that I played through. And as I was tracking it, I realized that like this is just not good enough and not something I would be happy to ship to my users in this state. And the thing that I want to ship that would look good is going to require a revamp and a re-architecture of how I implemented this, because it's not going to scale with the new way that I want to do it. And the new way is like playthroughs should be like their own entities. Like they should be their own standalone things that exist. Mm-hmm. And it should almost be like a playthrough journal. I think that playing through a game is a journey. You start out with like your expectations, and then you figure out, are those expectations being met as you go through the game? And that's why you have such weird like situations where people will play 100 hours of a game and then give it a negative review. You're like, how could you play that game for 100 hours? Well, because it took 100 hours for me to figure out, did I like it or not? You know, like it was good enough where I just kept playing it, you know, but that's what this feature, my vision for it is I want it to combat that. I want it to be something where you can do the Marie Kondo thing where you say, is this giving me joy or is it not? If it's not, drop it.
I love it.
That's what I want to Keep Track of My Games to like eventually help you with. But it doesn't do that yet. But this is on the path to that. Yeah. So anyway, lots of fun stuff happening there. But now I'm on to the next update. And that one is going to be more, it's going to pull back a little bit more and focus on a lot of friction that's going on with the search and discovery side of the app, because that has not been touched for many years. So anyway, what's new with you?
Well, not a whole lot. We figured out that I do not have mononucleosis. So that's
good.
That's good. But I'm still quite tired nonetheless. So we're still figuring that out. But at least I don't have mono, I guess.
That's good.
On a similar vein, I got a new coffee pot, which is necessary. Our old one broke in like kind of the grossest way. The water feed, the tube, like became brittle and fell apart inside of the water reservoir.
Oh.
Like whatever's in our, and this is not like coffee doesn't flow over this tube. I don't even know what the original material was.
Yeah.
Some sort of plastic tube.
Sure.
But something in our city water ate at this theoretically plastic until it literally crumbled.
Wow.
And I was like, why is this thing not working anymore? Because it was making some horrible noises when it was trying to like brew coffee for a while. And then it just stopped, and because it just had an aneurysm at the side of the tube.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what, like, it might have been some mineral content, might have been something to do with like the amount of chlorination that city water has attacked this particular plastic.
Right.
It could be that this $10 coffee pot had run its course after 5 years.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I bought a coffee pot that is more than $100, and it makes a fantastic cup of coffee.
Yeah,
And the best feature is it'll beep at me when the pot is full, and it'll beep at me later when it turns off the hot plate so it doesn't burn the coffee.
Yes.
Which is something I'm well versed in.
Welcome to modern civilization, buddy.
So good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that should bring us to the news for the week of March 9th, 2026. Yes. There's some headliners this week.
The big one, Vite 8 is out.
Woohoo!
Which is huge.
We've been waiting for this one for a while.
Yes. I'm going to be switching this week, the Excalibur build system to Vite 8 pronto.
That's awesome.
Pronto.
Yeah.
And it comes with a few awesome, like if you're not familiar, the big headliner in Vite 8 is now roll down is the bundler.
And what is roll down?
And roll down is a Rust port. Port maybe is like not the right word. It's like an API port, I guess, of roll up, which is the bundler that has powered Vite forever.
Yep.
And you can use it as a standalone. It's extremely potent bundler. Like it does an extremely good job. Has an extremely diverse community of plugins, well supported, well factored. By that same token, they wanted to like also continue to support that and also get some speed benefits. Now, one criticism you could lay at Vite's feet was the dev mode and the prod mode use different bundlers. So, and for good reason, Rollup, while pretty awesome for producing really, really compact bundles and really well factored bundles, wasn't as fast as like ES Build, for example, where it didn't do as great a job with bundling, but it could kick them out really fast for dev mode.
Yeah.
But when you have two different bundlers, inevitably there will be edge cases where there is differences in behavior. In fact, I've run into one recently.
Yes.
So, which I have to solve. We could talk about that later maybe. But it's directly this problem. Now with V8, there is only one bundler. And they've solved the problem of this speed issue between like ES Build and the fidelity of Rollup by porting to Roll Down, which is Rust-based, and it's delivering 10 to 30x faster builds while maintaining that diverse, rich set of plugin compatibility, which is chef's kiss good.
I think that's pretty cool because you can basically bring all your Rollup plugins to Roll Down and they should work. But that unified build chain is like massive. And it's going to let them do like really important and like performant optimizations that they could not do before. Because when you have information from the build step, like the local build step, that you can easily pass to the production build step, that's huge. So they can do like AST passing or like really like clever tricks to speed things up and add more features and optimize things that they could not do before. So I think this is, it's pretty cool. So that's not all it shipped with though. So just a couple other things that the blog post goes through, and definitely recommend just going through the blog posts because then you can understand more what we're saying. But Vite 8 ships with an integrated DevTools. So there's a DevTools option, and this enables the Vite DevTools. Now, if you're familiar with like Webpack Build Analyzer, and I've talked on the show about me recently using RS Doctor because I use RS Pack on my app because I came from Webpack. This is the same sort of thing, but obviously, with their new tooling. So it looks really nice. It's got some more features, but it can do like that bundle analysis for you, but it can also give you the tree map and it can tell you the module dependencies and all sorts of stuff to help you debug your bundle, which is excellent. I think this is really cool. They've also added some different like charting and views that you don't see too often. Like they have the typical tree map, which gives you like the big boxes depending on, the size of the box depends on the size of the dependency. But they've also got sunburst view and then I think like a chart view too, so that you can have different visualizations for your sizes and assets. So I think that's pretty cool. For TypeScript developers, they do have built-in tsconfig path support. Now, this is not enabled by default because they say that it does have a small performance cost. But if you set resolve.tsconfig paths to true, then it will just slurp in your tsconfig paths, and you don't have to configure your own like resolve paths if you don't have duplicates. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, this was a thing that was kind of frustrating when you were using like Webpack, for example. Like you'd set up your TypeScript path alias. So all your tooling would be like, great, this is awesome. But then your bundler might not know about it, and they'd be like, my bundle's not working. What the heck?
Yes, and you have to keep them in sync, and sometimes they use different syntax, so that made it even harder. So now if you're fine paying the small performance cost, you can improve your developer experience by just enabling that option. The other cool thing is that emit decorator support that's built in automatic support for the emit decorator metadata option, so you don't need external plugins for that. So I guess if you're a TypeScript developer using that, it'll support it out of the box for you.
That's nice.
Yeah. There is a whole bunch more features, so definitely go check out the blog post. But that is not the only thing that VoidZero had up its sleeve at its latest announcement. What was the next thing that they announced?
I think the next thing, chronologically, is that Vite Plus was open sourced and free, asterisk.
Yes.
It's MIT licensed. And it comes with a ton of features. In fact, Alexander Lichter has a great YouTube video on Vite Plus, super short, it's 5 minutes long, talking about the VP Create, which is a way of creating either like a Vite Plus monorepo project, a Vite Plus application, or a Vite Plus library. And then you can also use custom template for packages. So that's VP Create. And then they have VP Run, which is a task runner. This is cool. Okay. So normally I forget what my NPM scripts are, and I have no idea what they are. Well, this just gives you like kind of a nice little TUI for that. You can just type VP Run, and it'll go and find all of the runnable things and give you a little TUI that you can use, and you can scroll down and run them.
Nice.
Which is pretty slick.
And I'm sure you can pass the commands to it.
Yeah.
But this also goes along with one of their other Vite Plus features, I think, which is VP ENV, which will manage your node version for you.
That's right. This is, if you've ever had to manage your node environment, you know that this is a real pain in the butt.
Yeah, I mean, we've used NVM in the past. Currently, I use FNM to do on Windows to manage my node versions.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be trying this out. This looks pretty nice as a way of managing your node environments. Looking at some of the DX for this, it feels like it's just a enhancement of like the FNM, NPMRC, NVM, so all the favorites.
I think it's worth reminding people too that the purpose of Vite Plus is, it's geared towards teams and unifying that toolchain developer experience. Because what normally can happen is you might have multiple projects. One might use Yarn, which was the case where I worked, and another one might use NPM, right? So they have two ways to run scripts, two ways, different commands to do it. Different developers might use different version managers. Not everybody might be using the same one. So you've got this disjointed tool chain, which adds friction to the developer cycle, right? And when you scale that across hundreds of team members, that becomes a real problem. So Vite Plus was envisioned to address that. So it makes sense that like you'd be using the Vite Plus CLI as like a high level, just unified tool to do the same things. Run tasks, right? It doesn't matter what package manager it is, run it, right? Manage your node environment, all team members and all your docs. You can just be like VP, ENV, whatever, and it'll bring in the right node version. You don't have to worry about version management, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's pretty cool. And that's also what's nice about the MIT license is that open source projects can use it, because that's also a use case where you have a lot of different collaborators. They might not all have the same tool chain, and so Vite Plus is there for you.
I think one of the really interesting things that they did in this release is in this blog post, they talk about the MIT license, and they say they initially considered making a paid license when they announced Vite Plus. And then they're saying in this blog post that, you know what, Vite Plus can only achieve the mission of making JavaScript developers more productive than ever if it's truly free and open source. They got tired of debating what features should be paid and how they should be gated. This just creates friction. So feedback from the community reinforced their conviction, and they decided to fully open source Vite Plus under MIT license.
Yeah,
which
okay.
is awesome.
We should talk about that for a hot minute, because when they teased Vite Plus, that was I would have to go look at what episode that was, but multiple months ago, right? When that show came out, like part of it was, how are they going to fund development of Vite? If like, is this their play? Is this their strategy? Are they going to make Vite Plus, a paid thing? And we were like skeptical of it, of like how sustainable really is that? Is that a good strategy? I'm not sure. I mean, it could make sense if enterprises are willing to pay for it. But I think that this is really important, is like, to achieve their actual strategy, it actually dictates it must be free in order to like do it, to unify the tool chain and have people buy into this, right? So the next step is, what are they going to do to make money? And that was their last announcement. Do you want to
Evan
cover
did
that?
a one more thing.
Did a one more thing. Hey, by the way, here's how we're going to make money.
Yep. So they announced void.cloud, which you can go and sign up for the early access. But the joke is that it stands for, Vite Optimized Isomorphic Deploy. But TLDR, this turns your Vite app into a full stack cloud app as long as it's Vite based. And so I think this is the play. You don't need to know about Cloudflare. You don't need to know about how to configure infrastructure. You can just build your app with Vite. You include the Void plugin in your Vite app, and you're off to the races. Their CLI looks wicked cool. I was drooling at this, watching the video, and I'm like, okay, what can I ship? What can I ship there? I need to get in this early access for void.cloud. They have a lot of features that are coupled right now to Cloudflare. So they have a whole bunch of top level stuff, like you can import DB from Void, import KV, import storage, import AI, import auth. Those are all kind of what you think they are. Import DB is a D1 database from Cloudflare. KV is a KV namespace. Storage is an R2 bucket from Cloudflare. Workers AI, and then auth is powered by BetterAuth.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong because you watched the video, but I would assume that they take care of all the plumbing for you, because normally in a Cloudflare worker, you got to use Wrangler to like set up the D1 and set up the R2 bindings and stuff. So it sounds like when you just import DB, you get the D1 binding like for you. You don't have to do anything for it.
That's what it seems like. I need to go look at the details. They're moving fast, but it looks like they're doing a VoidZero slash Netlify play.
Yeah. And this is the funniest part too. I think it's hilarious because a while back I read a blog post by Swix, who a lot of people might be familiar with in the dev tool space. And I think he had a blog post titled this, or at least it was one of the the H1s on the page, which was, every dev tool company is an infrastructure company. Because that's the business model that works for dev tools, which is like, are you going to sell your dev tools? Which is, I think, what VoidZero was thinking that maybe they would try. What ends up happening is that strategy might not work so well. So in order to bring in revenue, you become an infrastructure company, and that's their play, it looks like. So the same pattern is playing out that you see in so many other dev tools. Next.js is not monetized, right? Like you don't pay for Next.js, you pay for Vercel, right? For Vercel hosting. So it's a similar thing here.
And I think this goes back to like the strategy discussion we had, is sticky features should probably be free. So sticky feature is the thing that keeps users coming back, right? So like if you're going to make a dev tool where you're going to be part of their life, that's the goal, right? You're trying to be a part of a developer's life when you make a dev tool.
Call back to the latest feature in Keep Track of My Games that I just released. Why did I not make it a premium feature? I thought about making multiple playthroughs a premium feature, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. You know why? Because this feature alone kept me coming back day after day to the app. It was a sticky feature. You don't monetize sticky features. You don't put them behind a paywall. Don't do that.
I think this is probably a good strategy. This is, as far as like DevTools strategies go, they're monetizing the end of the value chain.
End of the value chain, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes. And closer to where the revenue is made. You make revenue after you ship, right? So closer you can get to shipping, the closer you get to the moolah.
The same is true in game development.
Yes. Hint, hint.
Hint, hint.
Cool. Do we want to end on, there is one last little PSA. This was actually posted this week, so it's not part of last week's news technically, but it is a PSA, and we like to be kind of current on that. Node.js is releasing a pre-alert. They are going to be releasing new versions of version 20, 22, 24, 25 release lines on or shortly after the 24th of March, 2026. So that is in about a week. Now, we have played this dance before, and it was delayed, but hopefully it comes out then. And if not, we will keep you updated, just like we did before. So, like we said before, mark your calendars, but also, get ready to move it if needed. But we wish the release team luck. Hopefully this one's a lot smoother to roll out.
There's 2 high sev, 5 medium sev, and 2 low sev. Again, they're deliberately vague. We won't know details until they release them.
Yep. So get your ops hat on that day. Upgrade your node. Cool. Shall we move on to some library watches? We got quite a few.
We should. And you know what? The Vite news continues to rolleth. Vitest 4.1 is out.
Yes.
There's a couple of really exciting features, including Vite 8 support. But the thing that I am probably most excited with, and it's the first thing in their list, is test tags. So this is super slick. You can define tags on your tests, and you can use them to filter your test runs by those tags. So for example, they have like a DB tag. So you'd be like, oh, we're going to run all of these database query tests. So we need to bump the timeout to hella large because we have to bootstrap a database maybe for every test. And which is a problem I think Kamran has actually run into, where you're bootstrapping an in-memory database, every test potentially.
Yes.
So that you don't have side effects affecting tests. You could have DB tests, and then they have another one where they name one that's flaky, and they're like, you know what? If I find a flaky test, I'm gonna put it in the flaky CI test tag and give it 3 retries.
Nice.
Which I think is great, because you know what? Sometimes you just got to get stuff done and you don't have time to figure out why this test is flaky.
Yes, that's right.
So, and one's really interesting. They took a feature inspired by PyTest, and you can filter with like logical expressions. So you can be like, Vitest tags filter, I want to run the front end and not the flaky. Or I want to run all of the API/star tests. Or I want to run the front end and fast tests. Or I just want to run the unit. Or I just want to run the database.
Nice.
Like, you can do some wild stuff. And that's just, as a person that has over 15,000 tests in a repo, this is huge. Because if I were to run my entire test suite locally, it'll take me 10 minutes.
Actually, that is way faster than I thought you were going to say for 15,000 tests. Mine takes 20 minutes.
Yeah, I can believe it.
And I have 700 tests. You know what? I shouldn't be unfair. It takes 20 minutes on Windows. It does not take that long on Linux. Cool. That's really neat. Looks like we've got a couple betas. So these are not full releases, but they're still major releases and they're in beta. So they're worth covering a little bit. Video.js is now on version 10 beta.
This was a really interesting project built to transition Flash to HTML5 video. And it's evolved a lot since then. But a lot of, video solutions out there are, vendored. Like you got Vimeo, you got YouTube. The idea here is that you can do your own first-party video player and customize it and have it look nice and load nice. So they've really spent a lot of time optimizing Video.js for maximum speed. Vroom, vroom.
I think One of the funniest, this is probably one of the funniest lines I've read in a changelog. They're talking about what we focused on. And the third one is making the defaults look beautiful and perform beautifully. The experts are calling me saying, sir, how did you make it so great? It's incredible, really.
I love that. If you take a look at some of their examples here, their snippets are incredibly terse.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And readable. And they have examples of how you might do things in React, vanilla HTML, how you style them with CSS, and what the designs look like of these players. And they look nice.
That's
they look
cool.
Real nice. And especially if you need to embed video, audio, that kind of media in your app, this looks like a thing you should look at.
In fact, talking about bundle sizes, the V10 default player is now 88% smaller than the size of the previous version, but it actually goes a bit farther than that, because if you actually remove this adaptive streaming feature, it's still 66% smaller than the size of the previous version, getting even smaller there depending on what bundle you need. Like if you're just doing background video, it's like 3.5 kilobytes versus 25 kilobytes, for the default player. So you can go down in bundle size significantly just depending on what you want to do. Like they have like an audio only player that, saves a few bytes and things like that. So
yeah, definitely a thing to check out for sure.
Very nice.
Next up is Effect. There's the Effect V4 beta is out. And if you're not familiar, Effect is a very opinionated way of writing TypeScript code to be like, imagine like very functional reactive programming and extremely typed. So like everything is like value passing for errors. So your errors will flow through your program and be like known at type time. So this is giving you in effect, like, this is not exactly right, but in effect giving you like checked exceptions. So you know exactly what can go wrong in your program and force you to handle it. So it's very much like a verbose and safe way of writing software.
Mm-hmm.
The V4 beta is out and they focused on faster runtime. As you can imagine, Effect is an extremely verbose, but if you have a safety critical system, might be something to look at. And they're saying that the core fiber runtime has been rewritten from scratch to have lower memory overhead, faster execution, simpler internals. Every Effect application, they say, will benefit from these immediately. A substantial number of core modules have been rebuilt with performance in mind. So that's pretty cool. So V4 is going to be faster and lighter than V3 in every dimension, they say.
And how much lighter? 71% smaller bundle size. So very much in line with what Video.js has reinvented itself. I love these like late stage optimizations. These are fantastic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have yet to have a show about Effect. Effect is very interesting. And I think it's not everyone's cup of tea, I think. But if you have need of it, it's there. And I think it's extremely powerful, especially if you need more guarantees about your software and you want to leverage TypeScript to do that.
Yep. Yeah. I think we'll need someone from the team, hopefully, to come in and explain it to us two fools.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Next up, have you ever dealt with a monorepo whose dependencies you've had to sync between packages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the time.
Okay. This is
like 1,000% all of the time. Like I do that right now.
The tool called SyncPack, which does that for you. It is a dependency sync CLI for monorepos, and they just released version 14. So basically, what I'm just reading the cliff notes. Some of the things it can do are find and fix dependency version mismatches, enforce a single version policy or create partitions with separate policies, find and bump outdated versions from the NPM registry, ensure some dependencies always remain pinned at a specific version, ban some dependencies from being used anywhere or in specific places, define rules for where exact or loose semver ranges should be used, assign packages as the source of truth for specific dependencies versions. That's pretty cool. And sort and format package JSON files consistently. Very nice. So why I put this on here is less so than the version change and more so that this is a cool tool for monorepos that I had not seen before.
I am going to seriously look at this for some of the Excalibur stuff because we have what I like to call a distributed monorepo where we update the core library and then I have 15 other repos that I run a script on to update their peer and dev dependencies.
Well, I bet this would work because really, if you could just create a workspace, right? Because that's in Visual Studio Code, I would create a workspace and then you add all your repos to that workspace. Then you can just operate at the workspace level. So it's not really a monorepo, but it is a distributed monorepo. But then you could install SyncPack and then maybe check and see maybe will it still work if you do that.
I'll report back.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. Lastly, this I saw on Reddit, someone got inspired by React Doctor, which we had covered on a previous episode, and made Angular Doctor. Basically, you can just think of React Doctor and Angular Doctor as just a pretty sugar little package over some lint rules and like formatting and like a dependency checker. So basically, it can scan your Angular code base for performance, architecture, and dead code issues. So it also uses Knip, which we've featured in a previous episode, to find like stuff that's unused, dependencies that you don't use, code that you don't use, all that kind of stuff. And then it outputs a health score with some actionable diagnostics. So if you have an Angular app, now you don't have to feel left out that there's a React Doctor, and the Angular Doctor is now in.
The Angular Doctor is in. Ready to file off some of those edges.
That's right. Let's talk about what's new in the community. We have talked about this a few times now, different blog posts that talk about a similar thing, which is how to do Rust-like error handling in TypeScript. So that's like how to do the result type, right? Like how do you do okay, maybe? How do you avoid throwing exceptions and create result types instead, and how do you use them? And I love result types, by the way. I don't actually use them in TypeScript quite yet, but I use them all over the place in my service backend, my API backend. So I like this pattern a lot.
Yep. They even at the end of this post throw out effect, speaking of, as something to look into. But this is a really great way of getting acquainted with the idea of the result type. And it's nothing too wild. It's like, hey, you either got a result or you got an error.
Yes,
and that's
exactly
encoded in the result type.
But it's so deceptively simple. Like how powerful that is, just being able to do that. Because you can bake in error codes, you can bake in localization, you can do all sorts of cool stuff if you have a very consistent way of handling errors and results.
And in fact, like this is, I mean, some people don't like it, some people like it. It does force you to reckon with things that can go wrong, like explicitly. And if you're building software where you need that amount of bulletproofedness, I recommend considering it. I mean, certainly Go is this way, where you are forced to reckon with errors.
You must face your enemy.
You're forced to reckon with errors and then consequently ignore them.
Unwrap.
At least in Rust.
Oh boy.
Or if error equals nil, panic or whatever it is, exit.
That brought down Cloudflare. Unwrap.
Not today, Satan. I'm not handling this error. Next up, Web Dev Simplified has another banger video about a new TanStack library called TanStack Hotkeys, which is a type-safe keyboard shortcut library for you adding keyboard shortcuts to your thing. And if you are a TanStack enjoyer, check this out.
I want this. I have a secret agenda in Keep Track of My Games to add a command palette at some point. I think that would be really nice.
I love websites that have secret Vim bindings.
Ooh.
And I can use Vim keys because I try it on every website. And I can use Vim keys to move around. I love it. Like
That's
Gmail, I'm HJKNLing all over through my inbox. And the thing, Microsoft people, if you're listening to this, the thing that drives me bonkers is that Outlook, that I'm forced to use, by the way, Outlook does not have Vim key bindings, and I cannot set them. Like, just give me a way to do it. Just give me a way to do it. Just let me have this. Let me have this one. Anyway.
Let me have this one thing. Yeah.
Next up, I have a post from Blue Sky user AdSurg at bluesky.social, and they built a cool little QR code engine in TypeScript with zero dependencies.
Nice.
And if you go take a look, they have this really neat, like, horizontal, diagonal, and metro style QR codes that look cool. I want those. Like, they look really cool, and I like them. That's it. I'd like them. And this library looks really, really clean and really like well documented. It's got just a real simple API. Doesn't feel like I would have a hard time integrating this into my next app.
Oh yeah, that's neat. Love it.
Francois Best gave a talk at Human Talks, and this is a French language talk for any of you French speakers. And if you're a non-French speaker, you might actually be able to pick up a lot of the developer jargon that just kind of transcends the French language. And you might actually get the gist, even if you don't speak French. But as far as I can tell, this was a nice little quick primer on the state of the art in modern TypeScript packaging.
Je suis Monorepo. I am a Monorepo. That
You
could be
are a Monorepo.
that could be a philosophical statement right there.
Yeah. I mean, I think you are. I mean, I hope you are. I mean, unless there's stuff hanging out around. Like I got this organ in a jar.
Boy, the next one I thought was hilarious in some ways. First, for two reasons. First of all, that it's about RuneScape. But second of all, it's evaluating AI agents on their ability to play RuneScape through a TypeScript SDK and accomplish tasks. I mean, do you remember RuneScape? That was a thing when I was in high school.
I played so much RuneScape, like a ton of RuneScape, and it makes me happy to see this blog post, and the graphics have not changed.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So it's called Runebench. So it's an agent benchmark on RuneScape gameplay tasks. So what's interesting about this and why it's in the community section is because it's built using a TypeScript SDK. Agents play the game by writing and executing TypeScript snippets against an emulated game server. The SDK provides access to reading game state and performing actions. So they're writing TypeScript code to play the game. That's pretty funny.
The other thing that I like is that I'm just scrolling through the different tasks, and it doesn't look like there was any like super clear dominant model here.
No, it's like different models are good at different things.
Yeah. Like GPT-5.4, like owned at smithing, just knew what they were doing. And Gemini Flash, great crafter.
Yep. That's pretty funny. And then like Gemini 3.1, so like totally different model. So like Gemini Flash, really bad at, what is it, wood cutting? Gemini 3.1, the best woodcutter.
The best woodcutter. Cuts the most wood.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like you could be like, if I'm going to create a team of all these different skill sets, I'm actually going to need to use different models. Like I can't just use one model. It's not going to be the best.
Hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Like this is quite possibly the funniest project I have seen in a long time.
And whatever your thoughts on AI and agents are, this is still a cool project. And one of the interesting things is that it shows the transcript basically of like what the agent was doing. So be like, let me check what's available on bot. Okay, execute code. No drop item method. I'll use sdk.sendUseItem to drop items. Let me figure out the drop option index and start a training loop. Blah blah blah. So you can see the reason, like the agent's reasoning process for like how it does stuff, and then it has the recording of what's happening, and then it has the charts and of like what it's doing. So it is really interesting. I mean, it is a benchmark. So, and it's kind of useful to like see how different agents react to different tasks. So, the other community highlight, we're going to shout out another podcast. This is a Go podcast. And what is the next version of TypeScript written in? Go, right? Funny enough, this podcast is hosted by someone I know personally, but it's called Cup of Go, and it's hosted by Jonathan Hall is one of the co-hosts. He's the guy that I know. And they talked about TypeScript 7 and what it's like from the perspective of a Go developer. And I'm not a Go developer, so it's really interesting to kind of hear their take on it, and I'll let you listen to it. In the show notes, I have a direct link, but it starts at timestamp 20 minutes. And also, it was kind of reassuring to like listen to the episode a bit. They start out the same way that we do, like vamping and the personal stuff and updates and stuff. So it's very human feeling, and I loved it. So it felt cool to see another podcast doing similar things to what we do. They're way farther than us, though. They're on episode 149, so we have some catching up to do.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to double our efforts, I guess.
That's right.
Not really. That's not a promise.
No, don't commit to anything. What are you talking about?
Committing
this is hard enough. So I think we have like 2 honorary Bleets of the week, I would say.
Yeah, 2 Bleets of the week. One of them from Savannah Ostrowski. Savannah.dev on Blue Sky. I'm so sorry. But they write, this is how TypeScript is being ported to Go. And then they have a picture of Jake Bailey with an alternate keyboard. Let's put it that way. You'll have to see it. I believe this is like maybe one of the, like a music making device. I have no idea what this is, but it's certainly not a keyboard. But Jake Bailey says, you might not believe this, but this is how I code.
That's funny.
Which I thought was funny.
Yes. Okay. So the second one that came across when I was reading the feed and I thought was hilarious. This is a subtweet or sub-bleat, sorry. So the first bleat says, JavaScript is the work of Satan. And the sub-bleat says, TypeScript is Satan in disguise then. And then the original poster replies and says, the demon of Babylon disguises himself with the code of righteousness. So
that's great. I mean, accurate.
More poking fun at TypeScript, which I love.
So accurate. Well, I have a couple cool links, and you'll never guess, but they revolve around Pi, because Pi Day was a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
3/14. And the first one I have is from Stand Up Math's Matt Parker. He goes through a really surprising result where you can calculate pi through coin flips.
Wow.
And turns out that the ratio of heads over tails in coin flips produces pi over 4.
What?
Yeah.
My mind is being blown right now.
Yeah. So there's actually an explanation of why this happens, and it does make sense, but it's non-intuitive at all. But long story short, it's really amazing how pi falls out of there. So I'm not going to spoil it. You should watch the video.
Nice.
And then if you haven't, my other cool link is Coding Train. If you haven't watched any of his videos, they're fantastic for learning different programming techniques and learning different things, a lot of times in the context of game making and through visual programming.
Nice.
Building like generative art. And he does a lot of fun stuff with pi as well. So I'll link to his video about pi as well.
Sweet. I used a cool library recently that I thought we had talked about already on the show, but rediscovered it, and now I'm here to share it. And it's called Overtype, and what it is a Markdown editor that just uses a hidden div on top or below. I think it's below a transparent text box, so that it can do formatting, and it doesn't run into any of the browser quirks that normally plague Markdown editors or like rich text editors, because it's just a text area. And browsers are really good at rendering text areas, and everything works on them. Mobile works, scrolling them works, all sorts of stuff.
So cool.
And so what it doesn't do, if you're visualizing it right now, it's not like a rich text Markdown editor. It's still monospaced text that you're writing. You're writing the raw Markdown, so like underscore, my word, underscore. But what the highlighter will do, what Overtype will do, is it'll format that bit for you so that it's differentiated, so it looks like the proper like italic version of it. And so it does some really clever stuff so that it's all aligned properly. So it's all rendering behind the scenes, so it's not rendering the actual, you're still typing into a text area, but the text itself is transparent and it is being rendered on a layer below it so that it's aligned properly with your cursor. So they're doing some really clever tricks, but that's really nice though, because it handles the text editing over to the browser for native stuff, and it just handles the rendering, which is a much easier problem to solve.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would highly recommend looking at this if you want to do a Markdown editor and you want something that's just going to work. It doesn't have like any dependencies or anything. So definitely on my cool library list.
Yeah, this is super dope. If you need a Markdown editor in your thing, definitely check this out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
I think it might be time for the long goodbye.
Yeah, and it's probably more like a long good night, I feel like.
Long good night, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what is there to talk about besides like Vite is coming, VoidZero is coming for everybody's lunch.
Yeah, VoidZero is the new darling.
Yep.
I would bet on Void doing good things, especially considering all of the other players. Let's put it that way. Without naming any names. There's a lot of other players out there doing a lot of things, and I think there's a lot of advantages here of, one, being a second mover, and two, being a dev tools company that is, I mean, for all metrics, I think Vite might just be the current like bundler winner.
Yeah.
Like I think most folk I know are using Vite to bundle their stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think it might just be the winner right now.
Yeah. And I mean, even for me, thinking about it, it's only really a matter of time before I switch to Vite. Like, yes, I'm using RSPack right now, but that's because it was the easiest lift to go from Webpack and to adopt like a more modern tool, faster tool. But the next step is like, yeah, I'm probably going to switch over to Vite. Like, as soon as I can make that work, like, that's what I'm probably going to do because I want that unified tooling. Like, I don't want all these disparate tools to work on my app. And I think that's where their advantage is, if we're talking about competitive advantage, is like they've created a capability set of activities that they do that's unifies all the disparate tools that people used to use into one thing. And it's all integrated and it all works together. And it just results in something much smoother that you get at the end result. And I think that it was a good strategic play to make Vite Plus open source and free. I think that was a great play. Hopefully that works out for them. I think it will, because I think if I was in the same position, I would have made the same call. That was probably a hard decision to make, though. You know, from there where they're standing, of like, do we really? I mean, because could you imagine? Maybe the idea of like an infrastructure company just wasn't like something that they thought that they would do initially. So can you imagine having that conversation of being like, okay, what we're talking about here is making the thing that we thought that we could get paid for to earn revenue. We're talking about making it totally free and then doing this other thing that, you know, we're not like an infrastructure company, but we're going to be one. Like, we're going to become one. And that's going to make sense for our strategy because that achieves the vision that we set out to do. And I think that they are also well positioned for that because if you take a look at how they set themselves up, right? They own the tool chain now. Tool chain is like the first thing that you touch in order to go to the cloud, right? So now they can create a fully integrated Vite optimized deployment platform, right? And I think that's their selling point, is that it knows what Vite apps are like, it'll be able to do fun stuff with your Vite app, and gives you like the single command to like void deploy, bam. Right.
Yeah. And you just have a live URL at slug.void.app.
Right. And, you know, they are doing something that not a lot of people are doing, because even with Vercel and stuff, that's still a separate CLI than like the Next.js framework, right? Like they're two separate things. So like TurboPack is not like part of Vercel deployment process, right? But what Vite did is they started from the dev side first, the dev tool side first. So they've created a unified DX, and now they've just extended it with Vite Plus and now with Void, then have it all integrated together. So they can just add a new tool to the chain that's totally integrated with what they already have, and now deploys to their own provider, their own managed hosting platform, right? So it's still built on Cloudflare workers. So it's like an abstraction of that. So it's a managed hosting provider, but I think it will work out pretty well for them, is my guess, because they've created the groundswell to like, they've already gotten an audience to push people to Void, right? They haven't started from the platform side first, right? They went from a bottom-up approach, which I think is pretty clever.
Yeah. And here's my crystal ball. And I have no insider knowledge. I've talked to no one, so no one can get in trouble, but it sure does look like they're courting Cloudflare.
Well, we still haven't published a predictions episode, but this is on the predictions that I talk about on my list, which is somebody's going to come out with a Next.js killer, and I think it's going to be Cloudflare. And you know why? Because they've already invested and acquired like a bunch of tools such as Astro, okay? And now they've got VoidZero courting them with Void. This is new information that I did not have when I made this prediction. But now I'm even more convinced that that could be the pairing, because now what could Cloudflare do if they vertically integrated from the developer's machine to the cloud? They can integrate that entire experience end to end, right? As Astro becomes the new framework, maybe it still just is still Astro. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't become Vastro or, you know, whatever.
I hope not. That's
not owned by VoidZero is what I mean. So still maintained by the maintainers, still owned by the Astro team, but Cloudflare becomes sort of the umbrella that integrates those capabilities together. So VoidZero still owns, the Void toolchain, VoidZero toolchain. Astro still owns Astro, but Astro is already built now on Vite 8. So, like it's like a match, as you would say, it's a match made in heaven. I feel like from a strategic point of view, I feel like there's a lot of value added from all parties to some sort of acquisition that might happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
no.
that's my thought anyway.
And Cloudflare feels like divorced from like business strategy, it feels really good, like from my own personal perspective, because they have an extremely generous, like low tier, like free or like no tier.
Yes.
Like I've gone a long way with a lot of apps not paying any money, which is wild. The amount of value that I get for free. It's honestly pretty bonkers, because like my Google Cloud arguably provides less value, and I still pay them 8 cents a month.
Yes.
And, I guess this really is a long goodbye. But I think, well, if you haven't looked at Cloudflare yet for your thingy, it's pretty dope.
Yeah. That's why I was surprised when we went over the JavaScript state of JavaScript survey results. Cloudflare is still pretty low on the percentage share of like where people are deploying. I mean, I guess that does make sense. Most people are deploying it, like AWS is number one. So like the 3 major cloud providers, but I think it does help explain the gain that it made from last year. And it was like a significant gain.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was double-digit gain.
And maybe people just remember them as
just the CDN.
A CDN / WAF, web application firewall. For the longest time, I think that was basically all there was. But now they're a full-blown cloud provider.
Full-blown cloud provider. That's right. And they also have invested a ton in like developer tooling, like with their Cloudflare Worker platform and Pages platform and stuff. Like I've used it to deploy stuff and it's great. I love it. It's way easier than a lot of the other providers. And it has way more features too, which is really cool. So a lot more configuration, a lot more flexibility. I think they have done a great job focusing on developer experience too themselves. So again, that also brings me to like the compatible philosophies and like brand, I guess is what you would say, like brand philosophy, like tone of voice or how they've positioned themselves. Cloudflare is really oriented towards developers and is like developer first. Astro, of course, developer first, community first, right? And then now VoidZero, also very developer first, community first. So I feel like, again, it's that compatible philosophy between all the companies that really makes them a good match. Anyway, if I was playing Matchmaker, that's what I would bet on. But
yep, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I have zero insider knowledge. I'm just reading the leaves.
We're just reading the leaves. That's right. We're looking at the landscape and we're just calling what we see.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a good one. I'm excited. I really am. I think Vite 8 is going to be huge. I think Void is going to be huge. I have a lot to do.
Yep. Check in with us next week. I want to hear about how Vite 8 goes for Excalibur.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
Cool. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. See you next time.
Hi, everyone. This is Kamran. I just wanted to thank you for listening to the show, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to see the show notes, you can check your podcast player or go to TypeScript.fm, where you'll see a list of all the episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell your friends, and please rate it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, because that's how the show grows and gets discovered by more people. If you want to suggest news or a project that should be covered, or just want to say hi, email us at feedback@typescript.fm. If you want to follow us on social, we're both active on Blue Sky. I'm at comronigus.com and Eric is at ericonerheim.com. You can also follow the show directly at typescript.fm.